Melora had been home alone and asleep when the break-in started. According to reports, she woke up after the intruder shattered part of her front door and reached through the opening to unlock it from the inside.
Once I saw him in the house, I knew that we both couldn't be there. I knew that I didn't want to have a confrontation with him of any sort, not knowing what his intention was.
The moment she realized someone was inside the house, Melora grabbed their phone and climbed out of the second-story window, hiding herself beneath the edge of the roof to call 911. But while she was still on the phone with the dispatcher, the intruder followed her out through the same window. At that point, Melora was trapped. The drop from the roof was over 20 feet, which was far too high to jump without risking serious injury. So her only option was to stay completely still and hope that the intruder wouldn't come around to her side before the police arrived. Fortunately, officers arrived within 2 minutes and were eventually able to talk the man into surrendering on the roof, while firefighters brought Melora down safely using a ladder. The intruder was identified as 29-year-old Christian Hicks, and the people who knew the neighborhood immediately recognized him as a homeless man who was often seen in the area. When investigators pulled his record, it became clear that this wasn't his first violent encounter with the law. He had 2 prior convictions. One in 2008 for carrying a loaded, unregistered handgun, and another in 2011 for inflicting injury on a spouse or partner. But even with that history, it still didn't answer why he had chosen Melora's house specifically. There was nothing suggesting he had any personal connection to her before that morning. The only clue for why he ended up at her house came from what happened earlier that morning. According to reports, Christian had already been detained that same morning after a neighbor saw him wandering through someone else's yard around 7:30 a.m. Witnesses later said they had seen him acting erratically in the neighborhood even before Melora's encounter. But when the police detained him, the caller refused to identify him in person, and officers were legally forced to release him. Looking at both incidents side by side, several reports described Christian as mentally ill and behaving unpredictably in the hours leading up to the break-in, which means that Melora was likely never the actual target.